Hey there. Welcome to another episode of Carve Your Own Fucking Path, a podcast made to inspire you to create a life and business on your own terms. You'll hear candid interviews with people who have boldly decided to blaze their own trail, and the occasional solo show with me, your host. I'm While Meghan, on-camera coach, storyteller, and remote video producer. 5 years ago, I moved from my home base of San Francisco to the coast of Portugal, taking a big leap into the unknown. Some called it courageous. I called it carving my own fucking path. Today, I live in Lisbon and run a business that elevates your online presence, helping you show up confidently on camera to create videos that showcase your brand and personality so you can get more visibility and attract clients by being yourself. If you're just starting out in business or you've been doing it for a while, you're sure to pick up tidbits of actionable advice and hopefully feel inspired by stories from people who have chosen the unconventional and sometimes messy path. And if you've been waiting for a sign to start carving your own fucking path, this is it. I'm so happy you're here. Okay, today I have a very special guest. All my guests are special, but this one is definitely unique, and I cannot wait to introduce you guys to Meghan Hart. She is a medium and an astrologist based in Hawaii. And she reached out to me on Instagram, and I'm so happy that she did, because now she gets to share her story with all of you, and I'm excited to hear more about her. So Meghan, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Willow.
Yeah, and we're both a little sick, so we're, bear with us. So Meghan, you're a medium and an astrologist. Have you always been doing this kind of work?
No, actually, I've dabbled in so many things the past decade. Most recently, the past 5-6 years, I've been doing marketing.
Okay.
I studied astrology since I could read. I was probably 7. I took a certificate course, back in 2009. Been doing charts and birth chart analysis for friends and family as gifts, and just as something to, be able to practice my passion for the past 10 years. As I signed up for a more serious astropsychology course, I decided to quit my marketing job and focus more on astrology and my gifts as a medium.
Okay. Take us back to that. So, actually take us back to when you were 8 years old and you said you were studying astrology at 8 years old.
Oh yeah. I still have the book that I was reading at 7 years old, 8 years old, and everything was about astronomy and astrology. I remember doing, I had a project book on space, and I would make, balloons that looked like Mars. And there was always this obsession with space. And my mom, who's a very practical, analytical Virgo, she used to say, oh, you freak me out, because we'd just be sitting on the couch and he'd look at me at 8 years old and say, Mom, we are just floating in space right now on Earth. And she's like, I don't want to think about that right now. I just want to relax.
Yeah. I want to tune out and watch this TV show. Oh,
Right.
Wow. Okay. So where did you get this book, and how did you even come across astrology? I'm just trying to remember at 8 years old. No idea what that was. There must have been some influence in your life?
I remember in elementary school learning about space. That was one of our subject matters that year in 2nd or 3rd grade. And when the scholastic bookstores they used to have, once a month or something, I found these books on space. And so I bought that with the money my mom gave me. And then reading about astrology, I believe my sister had a book, who's 4 years older than me. So She had a book, and I kind of snuck into her room and would read all her stuff. She had all the cool stuff. She had all the cool books.
I love it. It's like most kids are sneaking other kind of books. Ooh, astrology.
Some nerdy astrology stuff. Like PG.
Wow. pretty cool. So from a really young age, yeah, you're reading these books, and then I guess like astronomy and astrology, do they really go together? This sounds maybe completely idiotic as a question, but I find one to be esoteric and the other is like very science based. Right.
Right. One may say that one's very like linear and mathematical, but in reality, astrology is very mathematical and linear as well.
Mm-hmm.
To understand the mathematical portion of astrology is really important, and fully understanding the concept of it.
Okay.
Getting into it, I should say, I don't feel like the idea of being into things like astrology and mediumship came out of nowhere. It runs in my family, what we call seers. And so we have stories of, our ancestors having these capabilities. And from an early age, my mom talked to me about palm reading and tarot cards.
Okay.
And I learned the basic concepts of that since I was a child.
Okay.
Because my mom used to do that.
Got it. So she is into all this stuff. You were just taking it another level, sounds like.
Yeah. Oh, I just got chills saying that.
Mm.
She at a young age really embraced that. For her gift was really centered around having kind of stuff she didn't want to know about that would be happening in the future. And it was very much like premonitions of people dying that were close to her, or like 1 degree of separation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really difficult for her. So she completely shut it off at a young age. And she entered this marketing executive assistant world. And, she kind of never looked back.
Okay.
Right.
So did you follow her path then in the marketing world as a obvious career choice?
It's really interesting how that happened. For a long time, I was in doing outdoor education and guiding on rivers and, backpacking guide for children. And when my dad died, I obtained my EMT certification, and I've been a volunteer EMT. And then when my son was born, I was also working at the hospital as a lab technician. And then when my son was born, I decided to kind of take a break. And when I was ready to go back out, marketing kind of just fell into my lap.
Okay.
And I did that for about 5 or 6 years.
And all the while, wait, and so where are you from again?
I live in Alaska.
Okay. So you were living in Alaska during this whole time?
Not the whole time, but when I came, I was kind of traveling all around doing outdoor education guiding. I did conservation work for trail work, and that was all up until in river guiding, that was up until 23. And that was all over the place, backpacking in Central America.
Mm-hmm.
I did all this stuff from 19 to 23, and I lived all over.
Awesome. And then you had your son, and you were pretty young then.
I was 25. Yeah.
Okay. And you took the job. So you kind of went, nursing, or, in a hospital setting, not nursing, but lab tech.
Right.
Then marketing. And all the while, I mean, what about this astrology medium identity? I mean, what were you doing with that?
Right. Oh. So for astrology, I was always doing birth charts, creating them, and analysis for friends and family, like birthday gifts, Christmas, or if my friends or family were like, this is happening in my relationship, I'd pull up both the charts and I would dig in and say, well, your communication style's like this versus that. So that was like a hobby, essentially. I treated it like, even though I had training in it and certification, it didn't seem practical to actually feed my family off of it. So
Right.
It's just always a hobby. Now with my mediumship, that is this whole separate journey that was happening at the same time. And
okay. And can you explain people what that is exactly? I think we have, sometimes an idea, but if you could just explain that, that would be great.
Right. So, as a medium, I'm able to communicate with loved ones in spirit who have passed on. And I am able to get that communication through all the clairs, which is kind of like all our six senses. It's I use sight, hearing, feeling emotionally and physically, as well as taste and smell. And then there's also claircognizance of just the clear knowing. And how that is able to happen is I lift my vibration and spirit lowers theirs, and we kind of meet in this sweet spot where we can communicate.
Okay. And it's there. What can you explain? Like, can you walk us through what that feels like, sounds like?
Right.
I love this.
Well, what I found is that I say this, and it's not that I'm special or people who are practicing mediums are more special than anyone else. We all have the capability of doing this. Some of us are more open, and it's a part of our life path to do this kind of work, which is why it's a little bit easier for us to obtain, or it's more obvious for us that we're meant to. Mm-hmm. And when I go to connect with spirit, if I say I have a reading, then I just kind of sit for a second quietly for a few seconds and just want to clear my head of any of my worries or fears or thoughts and concerns. And once I can get to that quiet space, there's space for spirit to kind of come forward. It comes in all sorts of different forms, sometimes they speak in symbols they speak in our own personal frame of reference. So if they're showing me a picture of my friend or my grandmother, it's not because that's who it is. They might be trying to explain to me the relationship between my client and that spirit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it happens pretty quickly that you can get into this state. I mean, or assuming you've been practicing for many, many years. Right.
I am such a beginner at this.
Okay.
I've been contacted by spirit probably my whole life, but it really kicked into gear when my dad passed away. So sometimes we find these traumatic experiences are happening to us, and all of a sudden it feels like our gifts flood in. And then we have this time to reflect, and we realize, wow, actually lots of stuff has been happening to us our whole life. And there was a series of instances of seeing spirit and hearing them after my dad passed. And I thought I was being haunted because those were the only words I had for it.
Yeah. And how long ago was this?
My dad passed in 2012, November. So it's been 7 years. So there was a series of things. When he died, I never really noticed like synchronicities at all or weird things with technology, but I would even think the very first thing, which I normally don't note, is he had just come to visit me 2 months prior to his passing. And there were all these photos we had of that trip. And I heard he passed, and I was looking through my phone. Where are those photos? I want to look at them. And I couldn't find them at all. It was weird. And then I just put down my phone, and then, 20 minutes later, I pick it up, I unlock it, and right there frozen on the screen is the last picture him and I took together while we were saying goodbye. And that was like the first synchronistic experience that I really had my eyes open to, that something is happening in spirit. He was a part of controlling that electronic device, to be a sign he's with me.
I'm always interested in people's moment of clarity. You're on this path, going along, and then you just sounds like, I mean, in your case, you hear voices in your head. You've gone through this traumatic experience. Was there some clarity in those moments that you're like, this is my path?
Right. And it took a lot more experiences. Like it was years of experiences. There's probably like 5 that really stick out. And I wouldn't really describe it as voices in my head. It'd be good to like clear that up because I feel like that's kind of like a stereotype of, oh, they hear voices in their head, which is adorable. But
that's not what happens. Yeah. Okay.
No, I wouldn't describe it that way. But let's see, 24 hours after he passed, I was in California, where he is from, where he passed. And I was at my grandmother's house, his mother's house, and sleeping in a bedroom. I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw my dad clear as day standing at the end of my bed.
Oh my God.
And I just half groggily said, "Hi, Dad." And then I went back to sleep. And I, for a long time, just said, that's from the trauma of losing him. I imagined him in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And then fast forward some time after his passing, maybe 3 or 4 months, I'm at my friend's lake house, his parents' lake house. And we're sitting in a bedroom, the master bedroom, and it leads to a bathroom. It's connected. All of a sudden I see a spirit walk in. It's a man walks in and walks into the bathroom. I turned to my friend. I said, "Did somebody die of a heart attack here?" And I don't know where heart attack came from. It just came. And he's like, "Yeah, like 6 months ago upstairs, the previous owner, he died of a heart attack looking at a thunderstorm over the lake." And I was like, okay. And these things happen. I just accepted them and moved on. And I just thought I was being haunted. I was like, I have a rain cloud over me. And then,
so,
oh yeah,
the feeling. Sorry, what was the feeling though? Was it, you say haunted, which is a negative kind of connotation, so it felt a bit creepy,
right? And I feel like those were the only words I'd really been taught. In my family, there were, seers, people who had predictions that came true, and they had tools like tarot and palm reading, but I had never been taught about mediumship. And I feel like the only words I had around that was like haunting, scary, bad.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear things like gifted, special, healing. I didn't know those words around it until I started kind of searching for my own gifts. And so there's 2 more instances that led to me seeing a therapist to make sure I wasn't schizophrenic, which is a true story.
Oh God. Yeah.
I was before my husband and I were married, I was laying down in bed to take a nap, and we have horses. He went to go feed the horses. And all of a sudden I hear a name whispered on the outside of my ear in a man's voice. And I couldn't make it out. It was either Harry or Henry. And I sprung up. I ran outside. "Did someone named Harry or Henry die in your family?" And he's like, "Actually, both." And I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to nap in there alone. So I really thought I was being haunted. And then I realized that there was something more. And maybe it was more like a gift rather than a curse. When December last year, I woke up in the middle of the night, and, we all sleep in the same room together, my husband, my 2 kids. I woke up in the middle of the night and there was a man in spirit sitting in my bed. And I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel anything, but I just realized, okay, like something is going on.
Talk to me.
To address this.
Yeah. And what did the spirit say?
He didn't say anything because at these moments when they would happen to me, I would shut down completely. And I would just be like, no, 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 no. I don't want you in my bed, which any practicing medium will tell you, and which I was told at that point is, wow, you really need to put up some boundaries and decide what you're comfortable with and what you're not. And in fact, a lot of mediums, I feel that I've come across, don't really want to see spirit outside of themselves or hear them outside of their ear. They all want it to, or it's not all, but it feels a little bit more comfortable if you're seeing it in your mind's eye, if you're hearing things inside your ear, your clairaudience, as opposed to your external audience. And so I just had to learn those boundaries, and I learned them.
It's a whole other level of boundary setting.
Right. Right.
Oh my God. I cannot even imagine. So yeah, this is happening repeatedly. Are you telling anybody about this? Your husband, your mom?
Yeah. My husband knew everything. And I spoke to my mom, my mother-in-law, my sister, my brother. I have a really close family.
Mm-hmm.
So basically my close family unit. And I got to a point where I was seeing things in my peripheral vision. I was seeing what I now realize is energy. And I then reached out to a therapist and asked for a session. And luckily they were open, and I believe they had similar experiences to me. And they just said, it sounds like you're a medium. And what would do the prescription was to go find a mentor, go take a course, begin meditating more regularly. And I was like, okay. And that's
an
what led
amazing
me to take a course. Yeah.
Okay. When you said prescription, I was like, oh no, they wanted to put you on drugs and
No, the prescription was to go meditate more and take a course and find a mentor.
That's incredible. So you then are now like in this whole new community, or at least seeking the community.
I couldn't believe what it opened the doors to once I finally was told by a medical professional that everything was okay.
Oh my God. And this was just last December.
Yep. And I took a course, let's see, I think it was like February, March. And the course was really good because it was the first time that there were words given to me that were in a positive light. Mm-hmm. And it gave me the opportunity to practice freely with no judgment. And that's when I really knew I truly was a medium, because I was sitting down constructively connecting with one spirit with permission from the loved one, and receiving messages and giving them what I had been given, and coming back to find out, yes. And we were both validated that I was connecting with their loved one.
Yeah.
You know?
What is that? What did that feel like those first, couple of times when you're working with someone, you're purposefully connecting with spirit? Tell us about, describe one of those experiences.
I feel like that would be that aha moment you were asking to speak about, where, I mean, everything else leading up to that was just these really strange and bizarre things. And maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm a medium. But the first time connecting, the person in spirit had passed of a heroin overdose. And I soon learned to find that physically feeling the death is one of my strongest clairs. I feel like spirit speaks to us in our frame of reference, as I said earlier. And being an EMT, it was the medical passing is kind of in my frame of reference, since I've seen a lot of different types. I'm book smart, or educated on it. So it was really intense.
So you would feel the actual passing.
Yeah. And so I felt, and I didn't know what was happening because it was my first reading. So I basically just described exactly physically how I was feeling. He also told me his name and a couple of his close friends' names. And but I think it was big for me because, one, I realized, wow, I really am connecting. Two, I learned the sensation of connecting, which you just feel like you're vibrating very high. I mean, it's joked that it probably can be compared to people who know the experience of taking some sort of elevated drug. Like it feels like you're just elevated so high because they're at like this pure energy level that we don't vibrate at. We vibrate very low here on Earth because that's a part of the human experience.
Okay. And so you're saying when you were experiencing the passing of, because he died of an overdose, you then went to that, like that high.
Just connecting with spirit makes you vibrate really high. And it,
oh, okay. In general,
right.
you're saying.
Right. That connection, I felt that sensation for the first time. Okay. And in the beginning, it's hard to separate all the feelings because, right, it's your first time. You don't really know how it's supposed to, what it's going to feel like. And then when I described all my physical ailments too, like the spinning, nauseous, I felt like my vertigo was off, all that kind of different stuff. And then you're able to separate, okay, this was the sensations of the passing versus just the connection, the vibration, the high vibration of connection. Right.
What other, I mean, I love the juicy like details, but what other passings have you felt that were absolutely the worst, I guess? I mean, not to go to a dark place, but
I feel like the heroin overdose has been the worst because I keep saying that to my friends who are also mediums that I'm still affected by it because I felt several of the heroin overdoses now. And they leave me feeling sick. And part of that is me needing to do more self-care afterwards and separation and grounding. But yeah, I remember like the third in-person reading or second in-person reading I ever gave was another heroin overdose. And I was sick for like 2 or 3 weeks. I couldn't give any more readings during that time because I was so sick.
And do they teach you how to kind of protect your energy going into the reading and after? They must teach you a bit about that, right?
Right. And I've come up with my own methods. I kind of fine tune what works for me.
Yeah.
But those were all in the beginning stages and unsure and not putting in the work. Right. And that's why you're really being able to experience all that kind of stuff. That's why I'm really excited for my students that I'm working with because it's good to experience the worst of it hands-on and then be able to speak of a place of experience to say you do not want that to happen or that can happen to you, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And okay, so you're doing the marketing job. Again, this is just a year ago. You're working in marketing, you're developing your medium skills. How are these two, like how does this path then completely, kind of detour?
Right. I wasn't too happy working in marketing, obviously.
You're like, this is boring.
And as soon as I had just asked, whatever word you're comfortable with, God's source to give me signs, am I meant to leave? Am I meant to do this? And I just started seeing all these numbers everywhere. Every time I started thinking about leaving my job and daydreaming what that would look like, it'd be 222, 333, 444, 555. I'd see it every hour, every day. At that point, it was really amazing. I literally saw it every hour of the day that I was awake. I saw the repetitive numbers. And it just felt right to walk away. And
so those were your signs, kind of like, okay, yes, make the move.
Right. I felt very, very strongly about it when I saw them. And I think a lot of decision making is if we can learn to trust that gut instinct and intuition, we'll make the best choices for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain how people can refine that? And just, I know this is going to be, a quick little snippet, but how people, can kind of hone that skill a bit because we all have it.
I feel like everything in this world begins with being alone with yourself, which we can do through meditation. And silent meditation, I find to be really important as well. So there's no distractions.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about knowing that this space exists between your mind's ego thoughts and then your soul's intuition. When you're able to practice and hone that in a controlled setting like meditation, you
Mm-hmm.
can then bring that in with you during the day. So, and you when you realize when once you're like trained in your meditation, you'll realize that that space of thought, that instinctual feeling is actually with you all the time and really truly does come first before your practical mind comes in and
Mm-hmm.
your ego's at play to make decisions for you, you
Yeah.
know.
So the subconscious mind.
It is always there first before your
Yeah.
ego comes in.
Yeah. It's
And a good
such
way to nurture that is meditation.
okay. So
Even
just,
if it's just 10 minutes. I know everyone, oh, it feels like such a chore, but just say, I'm going to sit here for 10 minutes and
mm-hmm.
not scroll through my phone for just 10 minutes.
So long. Yeah, it's true. And so doing that all, every single day, you can then detach or watch your thoughts more as well, right? Just be more aware of them.
Right.
And so doing that just 10 minutes a day allows so that your intuition, gut feeling, whatever you want to call it, is more fine tuned.
Right.
Right.
You'll feel, because then it's like this sweet space that exists in all of us. And I really feel that meditation is the exercise that can help grow that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do a lot of other clair exercises, to help grow clairs, but it kind of teaches you this realm of daydream where your hearing, your sight, and your feeling is living. It's just very subdued under the surface. And then how to recognize it when you're babbling in a conversation.
Right. You can, yeah, it comes to
or hearing terrible news for yourself. And then where that like lives.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What was the turning point?
Astrology seemed in the beginning like this will be like my gateway to being able to, it seemed, I had many years of experience in it, a decade of experience doing readings and formal education in it. And I found that when I was giving my readings to my clients, spirit was coming through. And when spirit comes through, I feel like I've never ignored it so far. And I had this thing where, like, I don't want to know what happens if I ignore it. They're going to come to me in my sleep. Maybe we'll sit in my bed again. I don't know. So I would find myself end up shifting into medium readings in my astrology readings. And then I kind of naturally grew into seeing in-person clients. And I was just seeing how much it was helping people and the tears of just healing. And that's when I realized, okay, I need to try to put more focus on this. And then everything basically just came naturally. You and I discussed before how my readings are donation based. Mm-hmm. When I let go of this monetary expectation for my time, it really kind of opened up a lot more, getting students that I'm mentoring, more people coming for readings. And I feel like right now that is where I'm at right now. I'm not saying that might not change. Everything is always changing, but that was kind of like this big point for me when I let go of this like number expectation, this marketing brain.
Right. And
I was able to.
Are you still doing marketing? Do you still have a day job?
So I do still have a day job, but I only do freelance and things that feel really good for me. Mm-hmm. So for instance, I'm, putting together business plans and websites all in like wellness and health industries and companies and entrepreneurs. Working with that like fiery spirit always feels really good for me. Mm-hmm. But my main focus really is on my medium work.
I have to say, I've been to probably 20 psychics. And so it's been a thing of like a fun thing, with girlfriends, we'd stop if we see one, we're driving through a random town or we just recently had one come to our little New Year's gathering, and we did vision boards. And we had this woman come and did readings, but I've never had a medium reading. So the process is like, would I tell you or ask you, can you see anyone around, or can you see, someone specific? For people that are listening, like, what would be the process?
It happens differently for everyone. And it actually happened. And I think for all of us, there probably isn't always like a specific method where it starts off the same every time. Sometimes I'm getting full body chills, and that's how I know spirit's around.
Okay.
Another time, for instance, I'm doing a website for someone. I'm helping them put it together on Island. And I recently posted about this a little bit. And my client and I are talking about, search engine optimization techniques on her homepage. And I'm getting full body chills. And I'm like, all right, you got my attention, spirit. And I'm still trying to push through. And then I get an image, of her mother, which at the time I didn't know. And so it always starts off like there's always different things.
You're not even asking for it. Sounds like
right. You're just there. And that's been really special. Another instance would be, I came across this man and we're just having a conversation about instruments. We both play instruments. And all of a sudden I just feel this huge attachment towards him. And I'm like, why am I in love with you? I'm married. And, and I felt like I had to like cry. And I'm like, okay, and then I got chills and I was like, okay, spirit's here. And then I started feeling this overpowering, like maternal love for him. And I just had to ask him, do you have people in spirit? I feel like they're around you. He was like, yeah, both my parents died. And I was like, oh, stop right there. And then, asked him, can we have this reading? I feel like they really have messages for you. And that's actually one of my game changer readings too. I called it my game changer reading, where I realized I'm really, truly meant to be doing this work and making space for it. And a lot of the times I feel like we're not making space because there isn't money involved or.
Yeah, that's a huge part I was curious about, because, and also identity. So again, like talking about courage, because you've been on this path for so long, again, marketing and doing various things. And then this has been also like theme in your life. How did you find the courage to come, like present yourself now as this person who does this kind of work, which potentially has stigma? I mean, what has been your experience with showing up in this way?
Right. I call it coming out of the medium closet. I'm sure there's many people that use that term too. I feel like I've heard it before.
First time I've heard it.
It happened in stages. I was able to open up to my husband, like my immediate family, instantaneously. We had a very open relationship about that anyways. They were, I called them like, oh, I guess what just happened, when I thought I was still being haunted. And then for me, one of my blocks was, 2 blocks was my grandmother. And the second one was social media, because on there, I have people for 10 years plus of my life. And, what are people going to think all of a sudden, once I was, a river guide, and all of a sudden I'm talking to dead people, like, like that. I worried about that a lot. And I realized I wanted the freedom to be able to express myself in social media. And that's where my Instagram, my business turned into a business Instagram. At first, it was just a place of self-expression where I didn't have any of my friends or family on there. And I can post about what the planets are doing. And post about doing Reiki and whatever and speaking to spirit in this way that I felt I couldn't on my own personal page.
Because of the judgment that you potentially would get. You were afraid of that.
Right. It's a block I put on myself because that kind of stuff, it really truly doesn't matter.
No.
But it takes a minute for us all to realize that.
Yeah.
And
I love this.
So what'd you say?
Oh, this quote. It's like, don't worry about being judged by other people because they already are. They're already judging you.
Exactly.
So I can completely relate.
Right. And it's just
showing up differently.
And it's all about, I find that we give a lot of our power away.
Yeah.
And learning about honing it back in, as well as I feel a lot of our power is given away to our thoughts, worrying and mourning the past and anxious and depressed about the future. And really, like, if we could sit in the moment and stop worrying and stop getting anxious about everything, that's where we'll feel the most powerful. So we call, I say we, like the community of people practice, but there's something called sitting in your power. And it's just about, it's kind of like essentially meditating, but with that meditation, getting to your highest vibration you can, and then sitting and like in it and feeling it and just being quiet in it. That is something that I think is really important, whether you're trying to grow your gifts as a medium or an angel talker, spirit communicator. It's as important just for the human experience to allow yourself to do that.
And then manifestation is then at its peak, right? Where you're emanating, you're vibrating at this certain level and then much more receptive.
Right. And
to attraction.
And I think learning how to manifest in the right way is really important. So if we're going to talk about money, instead of saying I want to make this much a year, I tell myself I don't care about money. I want to be able to know, I want to be able to make all my bills without stress and treat my family to special experiences. That's where I want to be with money. Instead of saying, if I don't make X amount of money in the next 2 years, then my life is terrible. Because with that, not only are you limiting what you could get potentially, but you're also could still be struggling at that number. Mentally. Right. And financially, you don't know.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm really, like the manifestation stuff. I mean, that's a whole nother episode.
Right.
but I think it's like just now having been studying this stuff for like 20 years and doing exercises that have absolutely like come true, writing very specific what I want. And years later, looking at a notebook, I'm like, whoa, most of this stuff came true. But the thing about manifestation that's like finally clicking is feeling it, like actually feeling what it feels like, when you get this, when you accomplish, when you manifest this, whatever it is, experience, person, thing, to feel it, but also not to hold it so tightly. Like if you hold it so tightly, it's like it almost cuts off the vibration or the connection or something. Oh, hi.
Okay, good. You can hear me?
Yeah.
I was like, no, what did I do?
That is just so weird. Like what?
I know. It is Mercury retrograde. So this is like classic.
Okay. I feel like this is, just my life in general with things like this.
My life always in Mercury retrograde. You might have been born with Mercury in retrograde. Who knows?
Wait, how often does Mercury in retrograde happen? I feel like it's all the time.
It does it about 3 times a year.
Oh, okay.
Its purpose is very important, though. We're just meant to slow down and rethink what we're working on.
That's good to know.
Right. Sit back and reflect. It's not time to like launch things or go big, you know.
Oh, okay. And
Which one of my students, this is not funny. One of my students, as we just had this malfunction, she just said, well, you know, she was supposed to go to Costa Rica and the airport is like SJO versus SJC. And she actually chose a California airport instead of the Costa Rica. And she literally got on a plane and went to California and thought she was supposed to be in Costa Rica. I'm sorry. There's so much classic stuff with Mercury right now happening. It's like, oh God, we better all just sit tight.
It's so good to know about this stuff because, yeah, it just makes it a little bit more fun.
There's themes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Things are connected. I feel like astrology is one of those first like introductions to, oh, there's something bigger at play here.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing this aspect with one of my planets does affect me in this way. Like, so you start seeing those connections and it's kind of like a gateway, a safe gateway because it's been practiced and it's actually accepted, I feel. I mean, you know, there's magazines with horoscopes, you know, it's one of those things that's been accepted for a while.
True.
That is of woo-woo descent.
Yes. It's the woo-woo 101.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I was telling you this story. I recently went to a psychic at this vision board reading, you know, total girly night. And the first thing she's like, okay, so what do you want to know? Kind of thing. She was just a total character. And I'm like, okay, so relationships. When am I going to meet my guy? I thought, you know, and I've been told various things. I've had readings pretty regularly, you could say, over the years. And so she's like, like 3 years. I almost like fell out of my chair. I was like, what? That's so far away. And then I got like upset, you know, I'm like, I've been single for over 5 years. Like, this is ridiculous. And she's like, well, we could, you know, you could speed up the process by doing this. And it was all kind of like, talk about woo. It was completely up there. It was face the Southwest with some corn and
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Burn something else. And I said, well, you know, I've been doing this meditation for like 1.5 years or something, you know, at night, like I'll put it on and fall asleep. It's manifesting your partner. And she was like, well, that isn't really working out for you, is it?
Right.
It was so funny. And I was also like, she said there was ways to speed it up. And then it was just funny, her response to my, you know, my manifestation intention.
You're like, wait, let me slow down. Let me take notes. Face the east, gather corn.
Yeah. I'm like, oh man, you lost me. But that's funny. it was kind of funny. And then I just started to again, like study manifestation again and the work I'm doing with, you know, with coaching and NLP and stuff. It's all very similar. It's about your vibration. It's about your intention, subconscious mind, all these things at play.
Connecting with someone psychically is different than medium connection.
Mm-hmm.
You're connecting with what the words I like to use is like their higher self and maybe their spirit team too. And the connection that I'm getting, like how I'm getting the signs and the words and the symbols is all the same with my clairs, but I'm connecting to the individual as opposed to people in spirit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the vibration just lower. So like when you're connected with spirit, you feel really elevated with the higher self. It's just a lower vibration. And there's so much information to go around that. You know, it's like I've had people ask me about, you know, what's their next steps and all that. And there's so much to it. There's so many layers around it. You can't just be told 3 months, 3 years. There's a lot of other work that needs to be done. You know, for instance, there's blocks in relationships where you get messages about, well, there's violence involved in the relationship and there's giving away of power and loss of self-identity. There's all these things that come through where if you're just asking a question, when is he going to ask me to marry him? That isn't really what needs to be answered. I've found there's a lot more. So when you have like an hour long, you know, are given the proper time frame to really connect with someone and see the whole picture. Mm-hmm. That's the value of someone's gifts, to be able to connect with someone psychically, not to be able to predict something that may change anyways, because in that moment, it may be 2 to 3 years, but you may make a big decision of your free will that changes your entire path in life.
Okay. So that is a question, because if they're seeing into the future, then there is free will at play. So they can see this future playing out, but you do have free will. So that creates a potential change.
Right. I really love both readings. Being able to connect to people psychically and being able to do medium readings with their loved ones. Sometimes it's a mix of both.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, unique to the person, what they need and what ends up happening. Sometimes people have just wanted a psychic reading for me to connect with them and see what's going on and what's to come and what tools they can use to help better their lives. And spirit comes in.
Okay. I really want to get people connected with you and talk a little bit about your readings, and that you're doing them donation based, which is so incredibly generous of you to offer that for people. So I would like to, let you speak to that and then tell people how to find you.
Right. So I've officially put away with a set price, and I have been accepting donation-based readings, which has been looking like a PayPal or Venmo donation. And essentially the best way to get in touch with me now would be in my Instagram Messenger, since my website is under construction, which my handle for Instagram is Medium Meghan Hart. My name is spelled MEGHANHART.
Awesome.
And that would be the best way for people to get in touch with me if they want to have a reading. And then afterwards, if they are financially capable, most importantly, and then compelled to give a donation, it's accepted and appreciated.
I'm going to get a reading for sure. So know that. I'm so
okay. I'm excited.
My first medium reading. I just want to commend you again for, having the courage and the clarity to really go for it, to put all that aside, like worried about what people will think, and, presenting yourself in this new way. Although it sounds like things have been working out and really flowing for you. What are you most proud of?
I feel like I'm most proud of letting go the expectations and trying to control how other people feel about me or what I do.
Mm-hmm.
It really did take a lot of work, but I've gotten to a place where I need to let people just process their feelings and make sense of what's going on and how they attach that to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably my inner work. And then I feel like I'm most grateful for all the teachers and friends and influences I've had along the way. Truly, I wouldn't be where I'm at with my self-love and acceptance without them.
Mm-hmm. What's the future look like for you now that you're on this path 100%?
Just kind of building more of a foundation for my work, connect with humans to their loved ones in spirit, and to help them receive healing messages that are needed for them to move past whatever wounds that they are experiencing.
What has it done for your perception on death and dying?
It's a really interesting question. I feel like mostly I feel a lot of hope. And I understand that it isn't over when our physical bodies are done.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that we all get to be together again on the other side. It gives me a lot of hope for this lifetime. I feel like I understand what the purpose is of this lifetime.
Wow. Okay. That brings peace to me as well, because I think it's the biggest question that we all ask ourselves.
All of our loved ones are with us every step of the way.
Okay.
There, once you open your heart to the idea and you ask for the signs and you're open to what all the different ways a sign could look like, then they'll start flooding in.
Yeah, I love that. You're living your truth, and there's nothing more powerful than that. Carving your own fucking path.
Right.
We should put spiritual path. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Willow. This was wonderful.
That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoy the show, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts. It makes a big difference for visibility. And even better, share this episode with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode every other Wednesday. If you're interested in working together to elevate your online presence, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me on Instagram at whereiswillow. I also hang out on LinkedIn, Willow McDonough. Until then, cheers to carving your own fucking path. I love you.